Ray here on a Wednesday night here on Bucs Report. Great news today. Blaine Gabbert again back under contract. Jeremy Fowler saying that there's still no exact numbers on this contract, but looks like it might be the same thing that Blaine Gabbert played for the Buccaneers in 2021, that being that 1 year, $2 million contract or somewhere in that neighborhood to back up Tom Brady. And of course, we talked about it before Tom Brady announced just a couple of weeks ago that he was coming back for his 23rd season and his third season as Buccaneers quarterback. What that Blaine Gabbert contract would have looked like had they not had Tom Brady here, or would the Buccaneers have been ready to roll with Kyle Trask and look for someone else to come in? We know the complexity of the no risk it, no biscuit offense. We're talking about it here on a Cup of Ray here on a Wednesday night. Love to hear what you all have to say about it. Thanks for joining us. Joining me now here on Cup of Rays, Mr. Rick Hughes. You saw Rick locking it down last night. Rick, great interview with Mike Clayton. I love you know how I love you and Dave together anyway, but yeah. I never have anyone live when I come back from my intro there. How do you like the music on that intro?
I love you saw me sitting here. I'm getting into music. I'm loving your intro. I still think, I love your intro.
Thank you, brother. You saw me dancing. That was Footage Bound Productions. Again, Footage Bound Videography. Yep. That's the best wedding videographer in the entire Tampa Bay and West Central Florida. And, of course, my wife, Kathleen, she put that together. And we did a couple of weekend shots down at the pier and got the sunrise. It took 2 weeks. She's such a perfectionist. She couldn't just get one sunrise. We had to go down for 2 Saturdays in a row at 5 a.m. to get the sunrise shot. But I think, I like that because that's the opening of every show. So, again, great job last night. Love talking to what is it? What's the high school again? Mike Clayton now, the former Buccaneer wide receiver, number 80 in your program, number 1 in your heart.
Plant City.
Plant City. Love Mike Clayton. Yeah. Love listening to what he had to say last night with you and Dave. But, of course, the big news today, and I say big news, it almost feels tongue-in-cheek because with the Buccaneers, there's been so much big news this offseason. There's the retirement, the non-retirement, then the retirement for the coach, then the this and the that. But one of the things we looked at back before Tom Brady announced he's coming back was Blaine Gabbert. Obviously, he knows
championship.
We've talked about this. Well, and as soon as he signs that contract, of course, I get my hits on Bucs Report, where I'm tuned into all the ESPN, NFL Network, and NBC. Jason Looking-For of CBS Sports. Bucs Report's the first pop I get announcing again, and that's how locked in we have it here, my friend. Is Bucs Report's got you locked in with all your breaking. So keep it here on Bucs Report. Hit the like button and the share. But Rick, what's the first question you and I talked about? And of course, I got infinite number of text messages from all kinds of Bucs fans, friends of mine. When they signed Blaine Gabbert, we don't know the details of the contract, but Jeremy Fowler of ESPN puts out there might be in the same neighborhood as the one he had last year for $2 million. But all of a sudden, questions get raised, and that's what we do. We raise questions because questions are there to be answered and or asked. What's the first question we talked about, Rick?
Well, the first question is, what does this mean about Trask? I mean, they're obviously not figuring on putting him in the backup role. So anybody who says it doesn't mean anything or that they're, it's good, healthy competition, I don't see the Packers bringing back somebody to play in front of Jordan Love.
Oh,
I don't, and they didn't bring in somebody to press Aaron Rodgers at number 2. You're trying to build the confidence of your number 2 quarterback. You're not trying to give him competition that, for the number 2 spot. I mean, look, they want to win now. Trask is not the guy to, God forbid, the worst case scenario happens. Trask is not a win now guy. He's a develop for the future at best.
Well, and
Okay.
the future, I mean, before Tom announces he's coming back, I was trying to make the narrative, and I say trying to because Blaine Gabbert's got 7 going on 7 years if you include this year in this no risk it, no biscuit system. Of course, back then it was Bruce Arians who develops that system with Ben
Yeah.
Roethlisberger out there in Pittsburgh, but then
Right.
Also in Arizona was Byron Leftwich. But the thing is that I said, well, if before we knew door number 2 was going to open again and the GOAT was going to step back for his 23rd season, I said, well, the narrative has to be Blaine Gabbert's got to be your starting quarterback, at least going into camp. But then if Kyle Trask were to beat him out, somehow the second-year kid, the second-round pick out of Florida, the guy that put Kadarius Toney and Kyle Pitts into the National Football League as a wide receiver, and Kyle Pitts at number 7 to go in the Atlanta Falcons, the guy doesn't show how great he is if he doesn't have somebody who's got the ability to pitch that biscuit. But I also posed that Buccaneers history, Rick, you and I talked about this. Trent Dilfer, Vinny Testaverde. How many quarterbacks, Jameis Winston, that quarterbacks were they drafted in the first, not second round, but they brought in and had to start that first year? How many times have the Buccaneers ever had the luxury of drafting a kid that had talent and giving him that time to develop?
Well, here's the deal. We hope Kyle Trask is that deal, is that guy. You hope for that. But the thing is, right now, he doesn't have a chance to even become that guy. And that's my only that's sort of my thoughts on this. Is it's not even really a reflection on Trask, other than we got to win now. That we're not thinking development, future. That's not. If there's a mistake made in drafting a young quarterback, it's that right now we're not thinking about developing a young quarterback. We're thinking about winning now.
Yes.
So I don't know. I mean, if you're on a what was it, John McKay? Why, why is it taking you 5 years?
Why is it
do
a
you have a
5-year
plan? Because I signed a contract for 5 years. So I mean, that's right now you're on a 1-year plan. And you don't have a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback and say, all right, now's the time, let's develop him. This is not a team with a develop people mentality right now.
Rick, I'm here to ambush you because you really stimulated my amygdala, my whatever. Yeah, hey, above the waist, guy. It's not 10 o'clock yet. But last night when you were talking about you and Dave, talking about Bruce Arians, talking about you guys put something, and I'll be honest with you, this is how locked in. Now I'm getting ready for the Rays season also. Finally, I want to announce here I got my credentials for the Rays this season. I'll be out there on Sunday, locking it down, covering the Rays for Sports Talk Florida. You guys know Jimmy Williams, Jimmy Bills. He did all the pregame shows with me on Bucs Report this last season, and I'll be writing for Sports Talk Florida for the Rays. I'm excited about that. But you guys started talking about the fact that Tom Brady says he knew within 24 hours of his announcement that he was coming back that Bruce Arians wasn't going to be here. But then Todd Bowles doesn't get the call from Bruce Arians till he gets off a plane in Carolina to go check on his house the week of the NFL owners meetings, which is just a little over a week ago. And all of a sudden I'm like, I always want to say I don't want to see fire where there's smoke. Because I want everyone to be sitting around, holding hands, singing Kumbaya, playing around the fire. But you start to look, and you and Dave talked about that last night, and I was like, wait a minute, you're right. Did they just assume that Todd Bowles would fall over himself to take that position?
All the stories don't add up perfectly. It sounds good here. It sounds good there. It's great corporate messaging. There's reeks of corporate messaging.
Yes.
But I don't think there was a battle. I don't think it. But
you don't think it was I don't think that Tom pushes Arians out.
Right.
But I also think that there was, because stuff just doesn't get made up usually. I think that you said this last night, and I was trying to read you. And by the way, again, great show. If you guys haven't already checked it out, go back and check it out. Buck AF from last night, Lockdown Show. No, I appreciate that show because it really got me thinking. But, when we talked about initially when Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady were sitting in there, at 4 a.m., they're doing that whole, hey, I'll buy the biscuits and you buy the coffee. I'll meet you at $1 or the Advent Health Training Facility. And then Bruce Arians gets in off his you picture Bruce Arians on the treadmill rehabbing that Achilles and gets off like a curmudgeon and comes in and just goes, no. And let me ask you this though. The irony is that if that was true, let's just say hypothetically, we don't know for sure, but that was true. You and Dave kind of said last night that, or Dave, I think, may have alluded to it, that maybe that's because Tom would like to see a little bit more of a run-heavy type of an offense.
I talked about that. And
yes, talk about that, Rick.
If you watched the new episode of The Current by the Buccaneers, you had Tom Brady pulling the team together in, I forgot what week it was. I think it was against Philadelphia. Tom pulled the team together to work on the running game.
Right.
The running game.
Yes.
I think he's 44 now. He'll be 45 this season. I think he looks at it and goes, yeah, I think running the ball might be a good thing for us to kind of have in the arsenal here and there.
Yes.
And yeah, I think he wants to run the ball more to prolong his time in the league. And, I'm sure, guys, we love to talk about Tom Brady's a freak of nature. And I promise you, if Tom Brady is hurting or aching or with old man, feeling old manish, he's not going to show you. Okay.
No.
So yeah, at 45, he's probably going, yeah, we need to run the ball a little more. And instead of the no risk it, no biscuit thing constantly. All of a sudden, Todd Bowles comes and becomes head coach. And what comes out almost immediately? We're going to run the ball more.
Yeah, and the thing is, go back to when Bruce Arians was winning that championship as the offensive coordinator for those Pittsburgh Steelers, when him and Ben Roethlisberger were in the middle of developing this no risk it, no biscuit vertical offense, pushed the ball down the field. And Bruce Arians in that parade, that Super Bowl parade when the Steelers won, of course, who's the receiver again with the toe tap catch in the end zone? It happened at Raymond James Stadium. I want to get his name right. It was the Super Bowl. No, it was at Arizona, where the Pittsburgh Steelers won a Super Bowl. They're having that Super Bowl parade, and Bruce Arians, as the offensive coordinator, is actually getting booed because the Pittsburgh Steelers fans were like, "You don't run the ball enough. You're putting Big Ben in trouble." And now you're starting to think you got Byron Leftwich as an OC. And again, we're just hypothesizing here. We don't have any inside information on this. We haven't. But now you've got Byron Leftwich, of course, going back to Marshall. You still see that kid getting, with the broken leg, getting picked up by his offensive lineman and carried down the field so he can make that last pass.
Yeah.
As a quarterback himself, which, playing in the NFL and the way he did, he would understand the importance of having a solid running game. And then, so I believe with you, there was nothing where I do not believe Tom Brady ever said, Arians has to go and I'll come back. But I think that Arians might have saw the writing on the wall that, every time he wanted to challenge a play last year, the guy got red in the face. You could see that he was just, and I think him and Christine have earned that right for him to step into the office and be able to relax on Sundays and not come home with hypertension every week.
Well, something that I think is important to understand or recognize is while early in the year, maybe the Bucs looked like, hey, let's go repeat. Like, they were thinking that might happen. December 19th of last year, the Bucs were shut out in New Orleans.
Yes.
A couple of weeks later, the Jets, they struggled. If you remember, they struggled in that game, came back and won.
Yeah.
And that's the game AB did what AB did. Okay.
What AB do? What AB do? That's what you want to say.
And then the Rams playoff game, we came back and won, but we were getting our butt kicked in the offense. Starting in December of last year, the offense kind of lost its way, kind of became dysfunctional.
Yes.
And with this kind of talent, this offense should not be dysfunctional. And I wonder, I don't know, I'm not saying this is what happened, but I wonder.
Right.
If there isn't a little bit of Byron Leftwich and Tom Brady going, I think we can do better than this.
Yes.
And I wonder if this just wasn't an opportunity where, look, they said at some point, now keep in mind, let's all do math here because this doesn't add up. We just heard way back when Brady came back, way back. How hilarious is that? way back when Brady unretired, they're saying he knew then or a day after that Arians was leaving.
Yes.
Really?
Well, Tom did, right?
Okay. So what you're saying is at some point, if you recall, that was right when they were negotiating, trying to get other quarterbacks in. Remember that? They were trying to get
They were in the
Right.
Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, right? That's why I was live. I was live on here with Alex Schomburg when talking about
awesome.
Deshaun Watson. And then, brother, you were awesome because you picked it up and did 8.5, which I know guys and girls out there, that's only on one platform. Bucs Report runs on quadruple platforms, but you locked it in with that. But I was live because we were talking about all of a sudden Deshaun Watson was possibly going to be a Buccaneer, a Panther, or a Saint. And I'm like, no, I don't want to see the give up the entire franchise. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, they were in that sweepstakes.
No, that's okay. They're in that sweepstakes, and that whole thing's going on. And Brady goes to England to a Man U game.
Yes.
That Arians was not at. And all of a sudden, the next day, he unretires. And
you know, it's funny. Let me back up on that because the chronology there was, and I remember because as I was that Sunday, had no intentions on doing an afternoon show, as I'm sure you didn't either. But the chronology was we get the tape of him talking to Ronaldo, who set the soccer record for the record for all-time goals scored, and then all of a sudden by mid-afternoon we start hearing the video, and the video was Ronaldo asking him, "So you're done now?" And Brady's like, "We'll see." And Bucs fans were like, what does he mean? We'll see. What kind of son of a bitch is that? You know, what's he talking about there? And then, of course, that afternoon it breaks. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's okay. But if you've got you understand, do the math here. At that same time, they're saying Brady either knew then or the next day that Arians was leaving. Now, if he knew then or the next day, and none of the coaches knew, none of the other players knew, nobody else knew.
The guy who was going to actually succeed him, Todd Bowles, no idea.
Didn't know. To me, the math doesn't add up here. Okay,
it doesn't.
I think what happened, and tell me this doesn't make sense, is they didn't go to Brady and say, all right, look, we're in this Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, but we'd rather have you. Are you willing to come back? And Brady says, well, here's the deal. Can we make some changes to the offense? Just that. Maybe just that simple. Can we make some changes to the offense? Can we run the ball a little more?
Right.
And then Jason Light goes and says, hey, Bruce, Tom's willing to come back. Can we run the ball more? And Bruce goes, I got a better idea. Why don't I just get the heck out of the way?
I like that. I like that because there's no conflict, but I also like that because I truly believe it to be true. I think that Bruce Arians, he doesn't come to the Buccaneers. He makes the Glazer family agree to give Jason Light the extension so his contract matches his contract. He won't even come here unless that happens.
Right.
There's no way Jason Light was going to, as much as you want, a zenith, a center of the universe, the sun, like Tom Brady to play that 23rd season. I believe if there would have been a power trip going on there, I believe the Buccaneers, and I think Arians still might have did what you said, even if it wasn't as pretty as Tom going out to see Man U and then deciding to play. I think that Jason Light would have sided on the side of Coach Arians because you don't want future coaches that want to come to this team, or you don't want Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich. But do you want Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich and Harold Godwin and all these guys to all of a sudden go, oh,
you're saying it perfectly. But Ray, you're going perfectly with what I'm thinking. Is everybody says, would he have sided with Arians? Would he have sided with Brady? It doesn't have to be Coke or Pepsi, Mac or PC.
Yes, you made this point last night. Yeah,
you don't have to choose one or the other. Right. Maybe it never came down to that, I think.
Yes.
And what makes total sense with the way everybody's acted since then is that Arians just said, listen, Tom wants to change the offense. I'm too old for that. I mean, I can hear Arians. I'm too old for this, right? I mean, I'm sure that would be BA and say, you know what? Give Todd the job. We're talking about minority hiring. Let's give Todd the job. I get out of the way. You guys, I don't care. Move me up to the office. Let me still stay in the draft. And Tom Brady is also, and this I believe is fact.
Right.
This Tom Brady demands 100% commitment from everybody.
Oh, yes.
And BA was not that guy. BA was not that guy. He came in late. He left early. He let his coordinators do it. And that probably drove Brady nuts. And that's, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with what BA did.
Delegating.
Okay. Right.
Delegating.
But Brady's probably going, I want you in here all the time. Don't come in here. In the way I think it was portrayed, I think was unfair to say, oh, he comes, in after rehabbing, his Achilles and takes a red pen to the, I don't know that it was that. I think it's, okay, he comes into the office at his normal time and part of his first duties are, okay, let's look over the game plan.
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about it. No, I don't really like this idea. And Leftwich and Brady, who've been there since 5 a.m., are going, well, what do we do all this for? If you're going to come in and now just, boom, make it.
Well, first off, I think every one of us, guys and girls, everyone out here on Bucs Report watching right now, we've all had that moment where we've stood at the teacher's desk.
Yeah.
On a test or a paper we thought we did very well on, and we watched him start using that red pen and going, no. And you're like, I spent a semester on this paper. No, I'm kidding. But I honestly, that's why you and Dave, a conversation about this last night really intrigued me, because it looked at it from all sides.
Yeah.
And I truly believe it was never if he's here, I'm not, or if he's gone, I'll come back. But all parties concerned. And that's why I think that, excuse me again, I still say at the end of the day, I believe Coach Arians did the most selfless thing ever in that instead of trying to get, and I talked to the dude this morning, of course, the dude Keith Larson, who runs Bucs Report. I said, just think about it. I think he's already made a body of work and had a history and done the things that possibly that puts Bruce Arians in that conversation for the Hall of Fame one day. Maybe not a first ballot, but, Dick Vermeil, it took Dick Vermeil a few extra years to get there. But what would a second Super Bowl mean? A second championship with Tom Brady at the 23rd season as quarterback. That, now maybe I think that if Bruce Arians gets that second Super Bowl in 3 years and locks it down, that maybe he becomes more of a first ballot. But I don't think any of that ever went into his thinking. I think that he thought, like you said, he's kind of gotten to that place where he likes to go in late, come out early. He wants to delegate. And there's guys that are younger and better fit for this. And I think that Coach Arians did a very selfless thing. And he stepped away and said, all right, it's time for Todd. Was it always Todd Bowles? I mean, because I haven't heard anybody say it had to be Byron Leftwich.
No, it was going to be Todd Bowles all along. I don't think I was ever in doubt that it was going to be Todd Bowles. And I honestly think that it was not a battle. It was not a fight. I think Arians, look, a couple of years ago when Winston was here and Arians was coaching him, Arians was there morning, noon, and night, busting his butt, working on this. Okay. As Brady got there, Arians is probably, quite honestly, like, I don't even need to be here. And, because of the role that he plays. So instead, he figures, look, this thing is all set up wonderfully. I'm too old to deal with giving Tom Brady his way, bowing to the quarterback, blah, blah, blah. But he's Tom Brady. I kind of get it. You don't have to be in a fight. Sometimes you can look at it and just go, maybe it's a good time.
Yes.
Maybe this is a good time. I can still get paid. I can still be around football. I guess it's kind of a win for everybody.
And the thing is, don't forget, coaches and front office salaries do not count against the cap. And I have not heard anybody come out and say Coach Arians was getting $10 million a year, but now that he's moving up to, being a football operations guy, we're going to cut it back to $13.50 an hour and insurance benefits. I mean, I believe, and again, this goes back to the fact that the Glaciers, you go back to 95, Rick. Let's just go ahead and wax poetic back here. 95, when Hugh Culverhouse passes and his team's for sale, the Glaciers step up. Everybody knew they owned mobile trailer parks down in Miami, and Malcolm had the history with the watches, but nobody knew what was going on with the Glacier family. They step up and pay $195 million for the Buccaneers, which at the time was the largest amount of money ever paid for a professional franchise team, and everybody told them they were crazy. But here we are, 27 years later, and I believe you could seriously put the Glaciers in the top 5, if not higher, among all NFL owners in the entire National Football League. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. No, I think they are a wonderful I think they're a wonderful ownership in the sense that let me say from a standpoint.
You're going full screen here. You're going full screen. Get it right.
From a standpoint that They are progressive in their thinking and hiring minority coaches. They're good people. I think they're great ownership. Okay. Do I think they're great football owners? Look, they stumbled on gold. I think they tripped and fell and end up knee deep in a supermodel. Okay.
Well, you're right, because when they buy this team, the Culver House Trust, they had put Rich McKay in charge of this team with Sam Weiss as quarterback. They get Hardy Nickerson as a free agent. They draft Warren Sapp and Derek Brooks out of FSU and Miami in the first round in '95. And the Glazers buy the team. So, yeah, you're right. They kind of did trip into a pretty good system. And then a year and a half later, I don't know. Do you remember when Tony Dungy was the defensive coordinator in the booth for the for the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah.
And do you remember thinking to yourself, why has that guy not got a job yet as a head coach? And then all of a sudden we hear
that. To me is still one of the best defenses I've ever seen. But that Minnesota defense, and it doesn't get talked about. But I remember sitting and watching them and just being like, nobody can beat them.
Oh, I mean, they were stifling the Purple People Eaters. Yeah. I mean, that goes back further than them, but with John Randall and that defense.
They bought the team for how much?
The Glazers paid $195 million for the Bucs, and now they're worth, I think, I'm just guessing here.
I have what they're worth.
North of $3.1 billion?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that about it for real?
Yeah, $3 billion.
Oh, I get so lucky with those. I'm good with hey, people, you got to start hitting me up for the odds, because I'll say, oh, the Bucs are favored by 2.5, and I'll hear they're favored by 2.5. I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking $3 billion. And some of that's on paper. Some of that's on paper, but it's a great situation with Tampa Bay, the stadium, renovations, and a city that's not going to let this team go anywhere. And then just one of the best franchises in all of National Football League. Now, Rick, I could talk to you all night, but I know you had to get out of here. Are you okay for a few minutes? Or?
Yeah, I'm good for a couple more.
Do you mind if I do a couple of comments real quick?
No, please.
All right. Marcus Sullivan, my soul guy, says, hey, Ray, do you know what day it is? It's what day is it? Oh, Wednesday. It's hump day. Hump day. That's right. Marcus. Marcus says, it's hump day, Wednesday, Ray. I love it. Eric Hartnett in here says, hi, Cup of Ray. Hey, Eric, thanks for joining us here. Evening, gentlemen. Ben Cornett's up in here.
I thought it was just you and me.
And you are no gentleman. Eric Hartnett says, do you like Neal signing? Oh, let's talk about Keanu Neal, the former Florida Gator. Loved that kid. First round pick back in 2016. Played for the played for Atlanta Falcons for Ford and Cowboys last year. There's a guy that is ready in his career to go after a championship. I don't even know what the details of that contract will be when they do sign him. But when I hear he's signing today, I'm thinking, I'm not putting now. Kevin Minter has been locked down, but it almost being that Keanu Neal plays that linebacker / hybrid safety, type of position. I'm thinking that would be a perfect position if Kevin Minter's moving on, that Keanu might move into. But maybe the Bucs and maybe Todd Bowles has more of a decision, a place for him in the secondary.
Well, mark my words, we're going to be more of a defensive team this year. As far as building defense, I think the draft is going to be heavy defense. I think we're going to be focusing way heavier on the defense. Right. And anybody who thinks, what? You got Tom Brady, why would you focus on defense? Because you got Tom Brady. You want to be able to play a little more conservatively. You want to be able to do that. So
I think that Todd Bowles is going up with Jason Light right now, and he's probably, if I'm Todd Bowles, I'm going to Jason Light, and I said, look, give me the first round to find my interior defensive line that compliment to Vita Vea, that pop off the ball. And again, I'm not putting down. We don't know what Ndamukong's doing, and Ndamukong may want to be back here, but maybe he's thinking maybe we can save that $5 to $8 million.
Anyway,
what's that?
You're going to need a future anyway.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, maybe we can get a rookie in here in an interior defensive line that's got some pop off the ball to complement a Vita Vea and then go along with an outside, but also and then Jason Light, you do your thing and find an Alan Marpet in the second or third or fourth round out of Hobart, and develop that offensive line. And then, of course, that third and final piece that the Buccaneers probably are looking for in the draft would be a running back. And I think that's like your third or fourth round pick. You find that type of a running back that fits that style. Maybe it's a horse. Maybe it's a guy with great hands. Maybe it's a horse with great hands. A horse. Just a big.
Oh, okay. Sorry, misunderstood.
Wait, what you think I said? It's not. Is it after 10 o'clock? No, I got 60 more minutes. All right. Eric Hartnett says, "What thought blame Gabbert? What thought blame Gabbert resigning?" Yeah, I think I kind of jumped off that real quick with how you and Dave were talking last night, but Kyle Trask, I still think, I mean, again, Kadarius Toney and Kyle Pitts puts them in the NFL under Dan Mullen's offense there at Florida. I still think this kid's got game, and the only knock on him is he's a stand in the pocket, read the defense type of passer, not very mobile, and that continues to be exactly what you have in a Tom Brady. So I think that Kyle Trask getting another year to develop. But Rick, do you think that maybe the narrative is that maybe we see a Kyle Trask beat a Blaine Gabbert out of camp for the number 2 position, and Blaine just ends up taking the clipboard position for the entire season on a practice squad?
No, I think they're in win now mode.
Yeah.
If Kyle Trask if they had that kind of belief in him, Blaine Gabbert would not be here. Like I said, you don't bring somebody to compete with Jordan Love.
Yeah, that was a great point. Well, let me ask you this, though. Do you think that Kyle Trask, does it behoove him? You know, the guy played backup to De'Aaron King there in Houston, and he was a phenomenal. And they asked him, why did you not give up? He said, because I'm going to continue. And he was going after an education, and I'm going to continue doing what I do good. And he goes to Florida and ends up winning that starting job and ends up locking it down as a great quarterback. I would pose there were a couple of quarterbacks in the first round in 2021 that went that I think that I would have given I'm not talking about Mills out of Stanford. I think he's going to get his time with Houston. Oh, you know what? We got someone else in here. Should I bring this cat in here?
Uh-oh.
We said his name 3 times. I did. I said his name 3 times. Welcome to Cup of Ray here on a Wednesday night. Mr. Dave Weiscarver. Dave, how are you, friend?
Was my name used in vain 3 times or what?
No, but I was talking about how you and Rick locked down that show last night and got me it's so rare that I actually just enjoy a late night show. And I was watching you guys last night, what you guys were talking about, and then having Michael Clayton on there. And so what are you saying here tonight, Dave? How you doing, my friend?
Oh, I just got done working. It's great.
He's not a man of many words, but the words he uses count.
Nice and dry. It's nice, dry delivery. Oh,
how you doing, Gray?
It's great.
You know, great.
So you heard today. Now I told Rick, you and Rick were talking last night about this, and you guys got me going about the whole Bruce Arians. You know, the Tom Brady announces he's coming back, but then Tom Brady says he knew about that Arians was retiring since he announced the day after or the day before, which was March 13th. He announces he's coming back, but then Todd Bowles doesn't find out till he gets off a plane in Carolina to go check on his house the week before the owners' meetings down there in Palm Beach.
2 weeks later. 2 weeks after Brady supposedly knew.
You would think the guy who's actually going to become the head coach might be tipped off in some way, saying, there's something coming, wink, wink, or anything. But no, the quarterback knows, but the new head coach who's in your building doesn't.
Or the irony of all of it, the irony of all of it is we haven't heard whether or not Bruce Arians knew when Tom Brady came back.
That is the irony. Well, no, the biggest irony is the ball boy who controls the PSI and the game day footballs knew. Yeah. But Bruce Arians didn't know yet. What?
Hey, Bruce, you don't know. You're retiring, buddy. Sign here.
we got, and I love the fact I saw Todd Bowles show up on a podcast today, and he's in that head coach's office with the big royal palm out behind him there, $1 place, and he's got that. And the thing is that I remember when Todd Bowles was the coach of the New York Jets, and I remember he got a bad deal with the front office and the decisions they were making on personnel. And I never questioned Todd Bowles as a defensive coordinator. But Dave and Rick, let me ask you guys this, because we're old schoolers. We go back all the way. Does it feel strange? It almost feels too gluttonous to have a Tom Brady at quarterback and have the offensive and the possibilities of the offensive success, but get back to our roots with a defensive-minded coach. I love that. Is that not? Are you guys thinking that same thing, or has it had a chance to? You had a chance to process that yet?
Well, I don't think you can judge Todd Bowles and what he did in New York with the Jets. I mean, that's what we have to go off of, and the record wasn't very good, but who has had a good record unless you go back to pretty much Weeb Eubank with Joe Namath? I mean, it's been that bad. So we'll see as far as that goes.
Reference to
Weeb Eubank reference. That was tight.
Hey, it's late and So bring out the Weeb. So we'll see how Todd Bowles does. I mean, it may be a bit of a foregone conclusion where we're thinking Todd Bowles is going to be this great head coach, and he may not be. but he certainly won't be because of what's around him. I mean, they'll cover for him if nothing else.
Now, do you think? And here's the thing. Today, I saw with Keanu Neal the news that Keanu is looking to sign up or possibly sign that contract with the Buccaneers, and then Tyrann Mathieu or the Honey Badger possibly going back to the Saints, LSU. Of course, he plays college at LSU. My first thought, guys, is that, okay, I'll let you have the Honey Badger, and I get it. The way to play the Buccaneers tight is to come out and slap them around because they're going to slap you around. But then I go back to that game last year. Rick, you already talked about it, that game where the Bucs were shut out against the Saints, and they were headhunting in that game. Of course, that's the game in which Chris Godwin got injured, and I'm not saying there was dirty play, but they were really bringing the boom to the Buccaneers to the point where, as Buccaneer fans, weren't we all looking at that going, oh, that was a little bit – that almost gave you like Greg Robinson.
We played that way for years, okay?
We took out Jameis Winston last year.
Let me knock your block off.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
we took Winston
look, it wasn't a dirty shot. It was what it was, and this is why we're going to run the ball more. Okay?
Yeah, that I'm not
the New Orleans Saints at bay.
Wait a minute. Hold on, Rick. Dave said he's not thrilled about so you're saying you don't need to see a defensive-minded team that uses the run set up the pass?
No,
Dave, you want to see a defensive-minded team that uses the pass to set up the run?
You have a brittle running back and then not much behind him. And so if your emphasis is going to be on running the football, I have an issue with the personnel that you have now. I don't care whether you run it or throw it, but I think this team showed that it's best when it's throwing the football. If you want to mix in the run more, fine. But you need to have the tools to do it. And I don't like the horses we have in the stable at our running backs.
I like that, but I got to tell you, you don't franchise tag Chris Godwin and have Mike Evans and then still.
Oh, let's run.
Yeah, no. What I believe is, though, I believe they still know that their bread will be buttered with the passing game.
Oh, yeah.
But I would like to see a team that, like Rick was saying earlier today before he joined us, is that there were a couple of games last year where the Bucs would go out and try to use that run and set up the pass, and the Saints and then the Jets game early that other teams were realizing. Robert Saleh, a defensive-minded coach in the Jets, teams were realizing the Bucs were going to do this to stop us. And I'd like to see a team. I don't need to see a team that commits to the run to start the pass, but I would love to see a team that has the ability that if you're going up against a team that has a great secondary, or you're going up just to change it up every now and then. And okay, we're going to go out and we're going to get Leonard Fournette 100 yards in the first half, and then we'll throw it to our guys the second half. And then next week against the Falcons, we'll run it. We'll throw it in the first half, and then we'll finish it with Leonard Fournette going for 200 yards.
Imagine
I could see,
if you have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Russell Gage, and you can run, and you have Gronk, and you can run, okay, and you run, and you're running at the beginning of the game. You're coming out, hammering at them. They have to pull up the defensive backs. They have to do what they're doing. I mean, they have to respect the run. And now you got Tom Brady and those guys.
Yes.
I mean, you can't. The only way for the run to help the passing game. Look, if I don't care who you're playing, if they can just pin their ears back and go straight at you, it's not good. Okay, so now you put them in a situation where we're going to run the ball a little bit more. Tom Brady threw more passes in the game in last year than he had in any year in his career, I believe.
Hold on, Rick and Dave. Cornell Bonaparte says waste of money. It was after a comment on the Neal signing. If you got a guy like Keanu Neal from Bushnell, former Gator, played for the Falcons, and then goes out to the Cowboys for a year to play with former, defensive or head coach I forget the guy's name now, defensive coordinator. Dan Quinn, right? I think that's exactly the type of player the Buccaneers look for.
Why does he think it was a waste of money? I'd like to hear it. Maybe he can teach me something.
Yeah, because I mean I'm looking at the Keanu Neal, and I'm at UPS all night tonight sorting boxes, and of course my mind's just wandering, and I'm thinking, the thing is, when you have a Tom Brady at quarterback, or you have a team that's poised to get a consecutive or another run at a championship, even in a year when everybody says, "Oh, the AFC is so stacked and the NFC is going to be also Rams," I think that a Keanu Neal who doesn't have a championship after 6 years in the league, but would love to come back home. Again, he's from Bushnell and come play for the Buccaneers and get a chance to go for a ring in 57 out there in Arizona. I think I don't know how it's a waste of money. I don't know how the Bucs are going to work him in. Does he play secondary or linebacker or in the middle of the defense, or maybe he plays a hybrid position? But I think it's less. And of course, the Buccaneers have had luck with the hybrid type position over the years, have they not?
Yeah, and Ray, our fearless leader, dude, said exactly, and I think we ought to have T-shirts made up. Follow the light, LICHT. Okay.
Yes.
And when it comes to making a decision like this, whatever you say, Todd.
100%.
I mean, he's kind of proven himself. So waste of money. I don't see Jason Light as being a waste of money kind of guy.
Rick, I got to ask you, did you message Dave and tell him that you were on me tonight?
Yeah.
Because you made my night. You took a cup of Ray on a pop-up Wednesday night and you turned it into a Buck AF, and I haven't talked with you guys in a while.
I didn't mean to do that. I don't think that's what it is at all. I mean,
I love it.
This is your deal, buddy.
No, I love it because it's been so long since we've got together, and I could talk with you guys for hours, but I know it's late and it's a work night. We're going up at 9:35 here.
I'll head out and you guys can take it from here, and then you do as you wish.
Wait, no, if you leave me with Dave alone, it gets lewd and lascivious.
Whatever y'all do, that's fine. Just Dave, just know I got him stimulated.
above the waist, Rick. Above the waist. Hey, Rick, thanks for joining us tonight. Go ahead, and before you get out of here, I know you're going to keep doing it now on Tuesday nights. Tell everyone where they can find Rick Hughes, and of course, by association, Mr. Dave Whitescarver.
Dazzling David Whitescarver.
Dazzling.
Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. on Buck AF. If you are Buck, as you know.
Oh,
I caught Ray. I caught Ray drinking. Sorry.
It's tonight's Cup of Ray brought to you by Footage Bound Productions and High Life Beer. Rick, thanks for joining me, brother. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Sir.
All right.
Happy to be here, Dave. Try and I don't know.
Keep me in line. Take care, Rick. Talk to you, brother.
Put me in a position to succeed, will you?
He's out of here. So, Dave. So I was talking to you and Rick. That's one of the things I loved about last night's show is because you both have just enough varying opinions that you overlap enough to make it interesting. But yet, so tell me though, do you like the thought of a Kyle Trask getting? And let's say I'm not ruling out Kyle Trask beating out a Blaine Gabbert in camp this season. But the Bucs, of course, again, the news today is the Bucs get Blaine Gabbert under contract again for this season. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN is reporting it somewhere maybe in the same neighborhood of what he had last year, $2 million per year. Do you like the idea of a Kyle Trask getting a chance to beat out a Blaine Gabbert in camp? And Rick was kind of alluding to, and I see where he's coming from, where that could hurt the kid's feelings. But at the end of the day, I also think Kyle Trask knows the complicity of learning this offensive system that Byron Leftwich runs here. And what are your feelings when you hear that Blaine Gabbert signs that contract today?
Well, I think that's great because if you've invested in Chris Godwin and you're bringing back Leonard Fournette and you brought in Gage, you don't want to be wondering if a second-year player who's yet to take a snap in a regular season game is going to be okay or functional. You need to have somebody there who can run the system and can come right off that sideline and lead the Bucs to keep going. You're not going to, of course, you're going to have a huge drop off with Tom Brady, but you can't leave yourself exposed with a second-year quarterback that has yet to take a snap in a regular season game.
I like that and that's what we thought before Brady. And I was talking to Rick about this before Brady announces his return. It's like, okay, even when the Bucs, and that's one of the reasons why I got so heated that Sunday when the Bucs were supposedly in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, is that I'm not questioning the talent that Deshaun Watson is or can be. I've seen what that kid can do in Houston. I don't like the 22 outstanding civil suits that he still has to take care of. I think that Cleveland and the Haslams now are starting to kind of realize, wow, this was, I think that they think they'll weather this storm. And at the end of the day, they'll still have a pretty accomplished and pretty talented quarterback there, the former Clemson Tiger. But I was like, it's going to take anyone that comes in here at least that full first year to learn this system. Like Tom Brady said in 2020, it took him till week 12 after the bye week. And of course, that's when the Bucs went on that 4-game winning streak and then the 4-game playoffs into Super Bowl 55 victory. And I'm like, a Blaine Gabbert, at the end of the day, we can talk about how we had 9 coaches in 8 years and such a bad luck and all that moving around. But at the end of the day, the cat knew this offensive system. And that's why I think signing a Blaine Gabbert today and bringing him in, I'm not ready to say that I don't think that Kyle Trask, because it wasn't like, and Rick made this point, and I love Rick, but he made this point that he didn't snap. He played a little in the preseason last year, like a play or two. I don't think the kid just went home and, cried into his Cheerios because he didn't get a chance to play. I think that guy's been working to learn this offensive system and
crying to his Gator mug. So.
Gator tears. Yeah, alligator tears. Isn't that like a thing, right? But I think that guy's been learning this offense. And the fact of the matter is he's 24 years old, a second-round pick out of Washington, and Blaine Gabbert is 73 years old, and he was drafted back in 1932. But I still think that Kyle Trask has a chance to possibly beat a Blaine Gabbert out of camp. And the fact that the Bucs signed Blaine Gabbert to a $2 million contract, if that ends up being in numbers, probably with some escalations or incentive clauses should he make them, I don't think that should hinder Todd Bowles or Byron Leftwich from evaluating these guys. And at the end of the day, when we get through camp and we get through the preseason and we get to the start of the season in September, I think that they make the call. This is the quarterback that's most ready to be the second string quarterback to back up Tom Brady. And this is the quarterback, be it Trask or Gabbert, that'll end up being the non-dress on game day, but he's still getting paid guy that we can bring up in case of we need him.
Absolutely. I mean, competition only helps the team. I mean, if you've got Gabbert and Trask going after it, I mean, that can only help them and help the team. But in case Kyle Trask isn't ready, you had to sign Gabbert or get somebody like that, preferably Gabbert, and they're getting him for what seems to be a reasonable sum of money. So I think it worked out for everybody, and it could really work out for Kyle Trask, but he's got to prove himself.
We talked about Testaverde, Dilfer, Jameis Winston. And I was talking to Rick on the way over here tonight because I had to call him, make sure he can come on. And again, Dave, thanks for coming on here as well. And I'm like, I'm trying to remember over the years the times the Buccaneers have drafted a quarterback in the first or second round, mostly the first round because of a 2-14 season the year before, that they were able to give a guy a year or 2 years to learn the system, to understand the intricacies of the National Football League, the speed, and the fact that you go from high school to college and everybody gets better, but you go from college to the pros and everybody is just, locked down. And I thought that the only quarterback we ever had that had the luxury of playing backup was Steve Young back in the day when the Bucs, they signed him off the USFL because we had the rights, and he comes in here. He doesn't end up playing. We end up having him run around a few times because we had no kind of a team around him at that point. But he ends up and he goes 4 years. He backs up Joe Montana in Frisco. And then, from what I understand, he actually had a Hall of Fame career and ended up doing okay. I think, Dave,
he's okay. He's pretty good.
Yeah. I wouldn't kick him out of bed for chewing crackers. But let me ask you this. How many times would you say, if I ask you, Dave, honestly, do you think that a quarterback drafted in the first round or in the top 5 that has to start year 1 has more chances to have success than a quarterback who's drafted in the first or second round, but yet has a year or 2 to develop in a system because of, again, a system that a stability of having a coach, although in the Bucs case with Arians going to Bowles, that's not the case, but I think we understand a succession plan. Do you think that the quarterbacks that are drafted, I know I'm talking about Joe Burrow, and Trevor Lawrence, of course, we know what happened there in Jacksonville. But overall, do you think that quarterbacks that have a chance to develop at the National Football League level before they're pressed into action have a better chance of succeeding?
Well, I do. Just off the top, if you're a top 5 pick, you're going to a really bad team. So it's really hard to develop when you're looking up at the stars, so to speak, because you have no offensive line or your team can't function. So I would say yes. Look at Patrick Mahomes. They had the luxury to let him sit for a year, and then he comes in and he's like MVP, and they give him this gargantuan contract. Good for him. But I said, absolutely. You're going to a bad team more than likely. And when you go to bad teams, you tend to have bad players and you'll develop bad habits. So I think, yes, if you can go somewhere like Patrick Mahomes did and sit for a year and get your feet wet that way and play with quality players, you're going to develop. Now, I will say that it's not the end of the road. I mean, look at when Rich Gannon got good. It was later in his career.
Yes, MVP.
So you can be a great quarterback and you can take your lumps with a bad team, and then you can go elsewhere. I mean, to a lesser extent, you could say Jameis Winston greatly improved on his second voyage with his second team.
Yeah.
A lot of that, I think Sean Payton will see what Jameis can do.
Yes.
That's not I'm not comparing that to Mahomes. Don't get me wrong.
Drew Brees this week says, they probably cornered him in an elevator somewhere, and they probably asked him the question about, what do you think about Jameis Winston, staying in New Orleans with Sean Payton gone? And he said, well, they still have the infrastructure and the coaching staff or the offensive, coaches for a Jameis Winston to have success, which basically I'm hearing that he's just saying, well, chances are they'll still run the same offense that the genius Sean Payton ran, so that should give Jameis a stuff. And I'm not putting Jameis down, but last year when he goes down, of course, again, it was on the tackle by Devin White where he grabs the nameplate. He did have like 12 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. His numbers are really good, but he was averaging like 170 yards a game passing, so he wasn't being asked to really carry that load. But
but I mean, he was, when you throw 30 interceptions, I don't put you in the functional NFL quarterback category. You're just not. I mean, the Bucs were 7-9, and they sat there and they go, we need a real quarterback and we'll be great. And that was the case. It was the quarterback. So he was not a success in Tampa Bay, any stretch of the imagination. Turnovers are killers in the NFL. But Dave, he went to, and Sean Payton did his pixie dust or whatever he did and made him a functional quarterback.
But if door number 2 did not have Tom Brady behind it, there's a real chance the Buccaneers do have to think about re-signing Jameis for 2020 and not letting him go via free agency. Am I wrong on that? Or I mean, I
think the Bucs were to the point. They had been losing for so long, and the organization was viewed as a losing organization yet again. I think they could not commit to Jameis Winston long-term, which they would have had to have done. So I think they had to do something. They couldn't bring Jameis back. They had to make a change. And quite frankly, all you needed was an average quarterback, and you'd at least made the playoffs and maybe won a playoff game. That's how good they were, and showed that they were. So I just can't see. I mean, it was too many interceptions. It was too many. It was just too much. It became too much for the Bucs to sit there, and I have to say, oh yeah, let's commit to him for a long-term contract, because that's what he would have wanted.
See, I hear you, and you're right, because that's how it goes. A quarterback that's, you get to the end of the 5 years with the exercise and the option on the 5th year, and they got to get the big contract or they got to move on, because, the team that knows you for the last 5 years, either they buy you or they don't. And that automatically damages your cost or your whatever. But so I'm hearing that if it wouldn't have been Tom Brady behind door number 2 in 2020, it was probably going to be a Teddy Bridgewater
something. I mean, you would have been better off at that point, because you had to sit down, and I'm sure Bruce Arians did inventory and said, the quarterback is the problem. I know he was covering for him every press conference, and he wasn't going to throw him under the bus, but you had a very strong defense, sometimes dominant. You had the offense, you had the receiver, you still had Chris Godwin, you had it ready to go. Even without Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, you at least had a 10-11 win team if you had an average quarterback. So yes. I think that your choice was, are we going to commit long-term to Jameis, or are we going to get at least a functional quarterback so we can make the playoffs and make a bit of a run at minimum?
Aren't we some sorry Buccaneer fans? Somehow the show always goes back to previous misconceptions or previous, failures. But Dave, I can't thank you enough for joining me out here, brother. It was so nice to see you pop into the lobby there. Even though Rick already covered it, go ahead and tell everyone out here where they can find Mr. Dave Weisgarver or Mr. Rick Hughes when they are here on Bucs Report, locking it down.
On Tuesday nights, there's not a set schedule for the off season, but we seem to do it more than we don't. Tuesday nights at 8:30 on Buck Report. And then also I'm on Twitter at Dave W. Says and Facebook Dave W. Says as well.
Yeah, I finally found you, brother. Yeah, and the thing is that, one thing we can both agree on before I exit you stage left is that there's never been a more busy, and we're talking about the pandemic 2020 when Tom Brady, the GOAT, signs to come here. He's up in New York trying to get his physical from some doctor in a back alley. He's probably getting an abortion at the same time, and then he ends up signing with the Buccaneers. But here in 2022, we've never had an offseason like we have had this year in Buccaneers history, have we?
Oh no, greatest player of all time, retire, unretire, coach retires. It's a little weird how he does it. Oh yeah, sign Chris Godwin, and don't forget he does have an ACL surgery recovery that he's in the middle of. So no, I think this tops even bringing Brady on board, if you can believe that one. And it isn't over yet. I mean, Gronk is having a good time toying with people in the media. So
let me ask you this: so he announces he's having that draft party out in Vegas where it's like $4,000 for a floating lily pad in the pool. And first of all, the first thing I'm thinking is, man, I'd like to be there. But secondly, I'm like, it's starting to get to the point now where I've assumed all along that Gronk is here again. If he's playing in 2022, he's a Buccaneer. I don't think that's a doubt. But I was thinking that he's just staying off the books to allow the Bucs to take care of the cap and keep the players on here. It's like, Gronk could come in July or come in August and just show up.
I don't mean to throw cold water on the proceedings, but it has gone through my mind that he retired even when Tom Brady was his quarterback. He retired after the 2019 season because it seemed to me, I have no inside source whatsoever, but it seemed to me he was in a lot of pain. And he was banged up bad, and to the point where he didn't want to play. He had a punctured lung and a few other issues last year.
The elbow or the back, yeah.
I don't. It just sounds painful, punctured lung. But amongst other ailments that he has, so I mean, he's done it once. He did retire with Tom Brady as his quarterback. He said, "I'm done." So who knows? I mean, is it a slam dunk? You would think so, but heck, we never thought Tom Brady was going to retire before this season, and he did. Now he's back. So at this point, at this point, until Gronk signs and says, I mean, he's kind of being coy, saying, "Well, I'm not ready to commit," which kind of indicates probably, before I have to, if I can get out as many two-a-days as I can, I will, and then I'll commit. But I mean, like I said, the fact is he retired with Tom Brady as his quarterback after the 2019 season when he was I don't know if he was yet 30 or he was approaching 30. So I wouldn't be completely shocked if he just said, God bless you, Tom, but I'm done.
Well, I'll tell you what, though, and if Gronk does, and I think he's, he doesn't have the TB12 brand. He has the Gronk brand. And the Gronk brand is just, the Gronk cruise, the Gronk draft party. And I think it's great for him because that's the way him and his brothers are. They're just happy-go-lucky, great-natured, funny, loving guys. But now you got O.J. Howard goes to the Bills. You got Gronk that maybe he's thinking about exiting stage left. And now all you got is Cam Brayton, whoever else we got, Tanner Hudson, or I'm not even sure who's on a roster. But now all of a sudden tight end becomes a position the Buccaneers will have to definitely address in the 2022 draft, right?
Especially if you want to run the ball more.
Oh.
If you want to do that, you better have a tight end who can block.
Dave, locking it down with dropping. I'm going to let you get out on that one because that might be the best knowledge that gets dropped on this entire show. Dave, thanks for joining. Dave Weitzgarver from Buck AF and one of my besties. I appreciate you, Dave. Thanks for coming in here tonight.
Perfect way to end the day is a cup of Ray.
Brother, I love it. Thanks, Dave. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, Ray.
Man, I'll tell you what, and before I get too into this whole thing, I want to read some comments first. Let's do that. Eric Hartnett says, Bucs sign Neal was a steal. I like it. But then Cornell says, waste of money. I don't know about that. Eric Hartnett says, who's ready for Lightning playoffs? I am at the Lightning run tonight. I'm not sure how the game ended up against the Washington Capitals. I'm ready for baseball season to start on Friday with the Rays and Orioles in town starting this season. Getting really excited for that. Been doing a lot of research. Of course, I always love baseball. I've always followed baseball. So I'm getting ready for that season, but definitely ready for that. Just ready for Buccaneer. I'm ready for the rookie mini camps when we find out who the rookies are going to be. Of course, we have a couple of weeks to go before we do that. Ben Cornett says, can we get a cup of Ray from the Rays dugout? Ben, I will, brother. If it can happen, it'll definitely be here. Ray going to be Lightning playoffs. Eric, next year. Not this year, but we're working on that. Ben Cornett says, I'm more convinced now than ever that Will Smith was inspired by Bruce Arians a few weeks ago. Ben, of course, alluding to the Will Smith smack at the Oscars on Chris Rock. God, that was great. I don't want to go there. Ben Cornett says Holmes. Ben Cornett also says Santonio Holmes. That was the catch, right? The Super Bowl. I think he was the MVP of that game. Am I wrong on that? That he makes that great toe tap catch in the end zone. Now I thought it was at Raymond James Stadium, but then I'm thinking it was the Steelers. It wasn't the Steelers versus the Cardinals, was it? No, it was the Steelers versus the. It's late, guys. I apologize. I got a YouTube comment up in here. Smilegate says Santonio Holmes. Yes, thank you. Marcus Sullivan says, great show, guys. Marcus, thank you, brother, my soulmate. Marcus also says, how long does Brady stay around to play mentor to young quarterbacks? Here's the thing now. Now we're getting to that point now where we're starting to think that maybe Brady would conceivably sign a second year or an extension or third extension to allow the Bucs to prorate that bonus another year or kick that can a little bit further down the road to allow the Bucs to have a little more money to bring in not just the kind of Keanu Neal, but also bring in some more talent for a 2022 run. But that depends on if you believe the conspiracy about Tom Brady wanting to buy the Dolphins and play quarterback for him. Like, who was the guy in, Heaven Can Wait? It was, he was the owner of the team and he wanted to play quarterback because he was taking, watch that movie, Heaven Can Wait. It's a great movie. If you like football and you like Warren Beatty. Eric Hartnett says, should Bucs trade Kyle? No. Kyle's the guy. Kyle's your future. Trust me, we're going to see that. It'll play out in spades. But we just want to keep consistency at the coaching level, keep a consistency with the Todd Bowles, keeping the same offensive philosophy, instilling his defensive philosophy a little higher up because he's the head coach now. But I think you want to see a talent like Kyle Trask and ability to have a couple of years to learn a system and to be able to, because even if he's not running even if Byron Leftwich finally gets that head coaching position somewhere in the NFL among the other 31 teams in 2023, which I think, again, we've said here many times, rightly deserved. I think that you can't take out what it means to give a Kyle Trask 2 years of experience at the National Football League level without pressing him into, and like Dave and Rick were talking about, developing bad habits, running for his life. Quarterbacks drafted in the top 5, going to a 1-16 team now with the 17-game season, or a 2-14 team a couple of years back. Now that we get Kyle Trask, the Bucs, they said Joe Tryon-Shoyinka was a comfort pick. And I still think that guy's going to lock it down at defensive end, which may be the reason why the Bucs you haven't heard any news about the Bucs signing JPP to a contract. And I'm not here to say who should move on and who shouldn't, whether it be a Ndamukong Suh or a JPP. But at the end of the day, this is a business, and you got to make decisions that are the best business decisions for your team. Eric Hartnett says thought was fake news that Tom Brady retired, not coming back. Eric, ended up being true, right? He did come back. Jim Melvin says, do we know how much Arians is going to be paid in this new role? And I'm glad you said that, Jim, because I said that earlier, that haven't heard anything about, and not that they have to announce that, right? Because it doesn't go against the cap either way. The Bucs don't gain cap space or lose cap space. I would think that just a classy organization that the Glaziers are and the Buccaneers organization under Jason Licht, your general manager, I don't think there's a difference in pay. I don't think you can continue that 5-year extension that he had, or the extension to match Jason Licht's contract. But I think they'll find a way to make Coach right. Marcus Sullivan says, do you think Brady could be an effective coach or coordinator once he is done with his playing career? If so, would he stay in Tampa Bay? So he's from Frisco, or he's from San Mateo, which is out there by the 49ers. He grew up a 49ers fan. I know that the Brady's are building a house down in Miami. And, of course, Miami's got that nice puddle jumper over to Brazil, which is where Giselle is from originally. I would pose that Tampa Bay is not only being 3 hours north and east of Miami, or north and west of Miami, doesn't make it that much less of a jump. I could see where a Tom Brady, but of course he's going to be involved in his production company. I still haven't heard him announce that he's not going to be doing that movie this year, Brady at 80 or whatever it is, with Sally Field and all the other great accomplished actresses that he was going to do a movie with, his production company. But Tom could be a teacher, but I picture Tom as more of running the training program in all of the country for quarterbacks of all teams. Just being the phenomenal quarterback and the knowledge that he has, and him and Alex Guerrero and what they've done to build his brand. I see him training many quarterbacks, maybe from the college level to the pros level. Would I like to see Tom as a offensive, consultant, or as a assistant with the Bucs, or maybe as an OC someday? I think he's smart enough. I think he's got enough knowledge to do it. I don't know if that suits what he's trying to do in the next stage of his career, because he's going to be pulled in so many directions. I don't think being over at One Buck Place, the Advent Health Training Facility, 7 days a week and twice on Sundays, is going to be able to let him accomplish the other goals that Tom has. And that's one of the things that I think we celebrate about Tom Brady, is that his goals aren't just, okay, I'm going to play football. And then, no, he's already got a phenomenal thing going on with Man in the Arena. And hopefully a second and a third and a fourth season of Man in the Arena, which includes the Buccaneers winning the third championship in team history out there in Arizona the next season. Stay tuned. Eric Belzaire says, good evening. I have a question, Guy. If we do get Julio Jones and Julian Edelman, I think you're talking about, again, I think that goes right along to the narrative that I was talking about with the Keanu Neal, that, getting a cat like that in here with the phenomenal, being the talent that he is after having played the Keanu Neal's example, playing out for the Atlanta Falcons and then playing 1 year under Dan Quinn there in Dallas, but then he's coming home. He's from Bushnell, played for the Gators. I think that's the kind of goodwill you have with a team like the Buccaneers, a lockdown, great run organization with a Tom Brady quarterback. But I think you can get a Keanu Neal. And we kind of posed for a minute, but we kind of knew the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, was going to just demand too much money. That wasn't going to happen. Looks like it might actually be the New Orleans Saints. But, other situations like a Keanu Neal or a Julio Jones or maybe a Julian Edelman. If you guys haven't watched 100% Julian, the movie, I think it's a documentary, but it was on HBO. Watch it, because not just so much for what you can respect with what Julian Edelman did and the phenomenal talent that he was and the commitment it took him to get back from a serious knee injury in back when he's playing with Tom and the Patriots, but just for a good inside look at what it takes to be a professional football player. Phenomenal. And of course, we know that Julian, we've heard that he's had those problems with knees, no cartilage, bone on bone, just problems. Do I think Julian Edelman could play another year just on grit alone? 100%. But do I think that he's in a position to possibly be able to do something like that? I would put Julian Edelman up there with playing another year, probably right alongside Antonio Brown, getting that ankle surgery and getting back into the Buccaneers team for 2022, which is not going to happen. So don't start that. Eric Hartnett says, why Bucs did not get Honey Badger? Too much money, Eric. You know that. Antonio Santiago III says, defense, baby. That's what we hang our hats on. LFG Go Bucs. 100% agree, Antonio. It's kind of something we've all grown up with and something we're all used to here. But having the best offense in the league, maybe this 2022 Super Bowl or maybe the 2022 MVP, should have been the 2021 MVP over Aaron Rodgers. That doesn't hurt for the other end of it, does it? Rick Hughes says, who are the last quarterbacks that developed over a few years before starting? Man, Rick, I was throwing questions at you. Great question. Garoppolo, right, obviously, but then you want to say Brissett, who didn't get a good shot, because then it's kind of a hard thing to compare. And I'm just using Patriots as an example here, because it's always about what team you go to, the breaks you get, the position you're in, just like it is for a quarterback. The quarterback for Vinny Testaverde, he comes out and plays for the first 5 years, comes out in 87, the first round pick by the Bucs, and he basically wastes away for 5 years. We end up finding out he's colorblind, and that was the reason why, of course, he meets Mitzi, and they have a beautiful family, and his son, Vinny Jr., comes and plays for the Bucs one preseason a couple of years back. But Vinny ends up playing for 73 years in the league, with having a pretty good league. He takes the Jets to the AFC Championship game, or at least deep in the playoffs a couple of times. He showed that he was a phenomenal quarterback, but he came to a really bad situation in the Hugh Culverhouse ran Buccaneers. So kind of like the questions I was posing to you, Rick, is the same question coming back. Is it really, it's all about situation that you go to, right? Rick also says, have a safe and blessed rest of the week. Be safe out here, folks. Marcus Sullivan says that. Marcus, thank you so much for coming in here. Rick Hughes was the one that said, was that an abortion joke? Oh God, it was. That was such bad taste. Well, you guys know I'm left of center, but I'm not so far left that I can't see the right. But at the same time, we're starting to get to that. I won't go there. Marcus Sullivan says, great show, Ray. Marcus, thank you. I appreciate you, brother. Wes Winkle up in here says, I think it was. I have no idea what they refers to. But thanks for your comments tonight. I'm over an hour. It's a Wednesday night. I'm going to go home, see what the wife made me for dinner. I want to finish with this thought. I was driving back to work today. I went home for lunch, got my clothes for UPS. I was driving back to work, and on Seminole Boulevard there, just, by the turn into Johnson Boulevard, which brings us right here to the Irish 31, which so greatly hosted me out here tonight. Again, Studio SMG, Studio Movie Go behind me, and Irish 31. One of the best things going on lately is that as we got into that favorite place, the business has been going out here again. We're having a great time. I would pose that with the cool front coming in here in Florida this weekend, I could say coming out here to SMG to watch the Masters from Augusta, and Tiger Woods announces that he's going to play in that. It's not so much that we're just wishing Tiger well after that terrible car accident he had a couple of years back, going to, to continuing to do more golf content. But Tiger Woods, what he means to the PGA, you saw it today. If any of y'all haven't looked, go ahead and Google this tonight. If you're still watching this, and there's only like one of you watching, so I know you're not, but look at the practice gallery for Tiger today at Augusta, just for not a practice round, just practicing. It's practice. We're talking practice. It's practice, and it was just full. Love to watch this cat play golf. The Masters this weekend. If you guys haven't already got plans, come out here to Irish 31 in Seminole. Get the box tees, the delicious wings, and bury the lead. Some of the best draft beer in all the county. Irish 31 is your Irish pub in the neighborhood, doing so many great things, raising causes. Having a Thursday night, they have game night out here, or they have trivia night. And I see so many of my residents here in Seminole out here having a great time. But if you got an Irish 31 near you in the Tampa Bay area, get over there and check it out, because if you're not, you're missing it. But driving back to work this morning, the traffic was stopped. There was a car in the center lane. It was stopped. And then I noticed that there was a gentleman walking out into the island. And so if you're heading south on Seminole Boulevard, you know that across to my left there is Lake Seminole. And this gentleman, it was a mother duck. It was a mallard. Not that it should matter if it's a mallard or a muscovy, but it was a mallard duck and her 12 chicklings or chicks. Little tiny ducks, just born, just got their feathers. They might have just blown their feathers out. And this gentleman selflessly jumps out of his car because they were trying to get across the Lake Seminole from the Seminole City Center here. I don't know how they got over here. They were trying to get back over to Lake Seminole. The gentleman jumps out of his car and he's shooing the family. He's grabbing chicks off the island and getting them with their mother. He gets them, and the cars all stop on the northbound side of Seminole Boulevard, and he gets the chicks to the other side, and they take off with their mother. And tears. I had a tear in my eye. I'm getting old. Like, you guys know that. Guys and girls know that. But everyone in traffic with me, even though we'd all missed the light because we were stopped because he'd stopped in the center lane, we all gave him an ovation. And that just really touched me, because we see sad things in life. We see what's going on with Ukraine and Russia. We see things maybe we can't control, but then there's so many things we can control, like with Chris Godwin and his foundation with saving animals that can't find a forever home, or, ducks crossing the street, or maybe it's, giving to a charity or people in the community. We're going to July now instead of like December, but maybe you're just giving. Maybe we're back at church and we're giving to the churches that are doing well for our people that needy, or our needy individuals in our society. But when I saw that gentleman cross the mother duck and her 12 chicks cross to the, they may have come back across Seminole Boulevard an hour later. And I don't know. You can't control things like that. That's just life. But do what you can when you can, because not only will it make you feel good, but it'll make everybody who sees you do it feel good. And that's the good stuff. Spreading the warm and fuzzies. And I love that, because you guys and girls know how I end every one of these. Everyone needs to know that someone cares tonight, this week, as we go into this weekend. Why don't you be the one to let them know? Thanks for joining me here for a Cup of Ray on Bucs Report on a Wednesday night again. Keanu Neal looking to get a contract. The Bucs get Blaine Gabbert under contract. Details of that contract to come. And the Buccaneers just keep rocking it. The Rays start on Friday with the home opener there at Tropicana Field against the Baltimore Orioles. And the Lightning, I haven't seen a full update from the score tonight. They were down 3-2 to the Washington Capitals in the third period, but hopefully they pulled that one out. Thanks for joining me here on Cup of Ray on Bucs Report. And I got to press that button.